10 years later. It had been a full decade since the divorce when we crossed paths again, a random evening at a restaurant neither of us expected to be in. "Been a while," I said casually. She froze the second her eyes landed on my wife sitting beside me. For a moment, she didn't recognize me. Maybe it was the custom suit. Maybe it was how I sat, relaxed, composed, no longer apologizing for taking up space in the world. But then her eyes met mine, and I saw it, that flash of realization. Subtle, almost imperceptible, but there. Her breath caught, she probably thought no one noticed. But I noticed. I always notice. A decade earlier, I was the one caught off guard. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon, and the house still smelled like vanilla-scented candles and promises we once believed in. That's when the truth fell into my lap, a message she'd forgotten to delete. Just one conversation thread from a man labeled R was enough. I didn't even need to scroll far. In just a few lines, I saw hotel bookings, intimate exchanges, and confessions I'd never heard in our own marriage, not even in our early, passionate days. She'd been unfaithful for months. I didn't feel rage, not right away. What I felt was an empty, icy stillness, the kind that seeps into your bones and makes you question whether anything, your relationship, your memories, the routines you lived, was ever real. I didn't confront her immediately. For days, I just watched in silence. I studied her with new eyes. The little smirks she gave her phone when she thought I wasn't watching. The sudden errands after work. The widening gap between us in bed, brushed off with stress and headaches. When I finally asked her, my voice low and cracking, she didn't lie. She didn't even look ashamed. She just shrugged and said, "I didn't think you'd find out." That was the moment something shattered. Not just between us, but inside me. The divorce was quick. She didn't fight it. She wanted out. Said she no longer loved me and didn't want to keep pretending. Within a week, she had moved in with him. I was left standing in a tiny one-bedroom apartment, heart splintered, and surrounded by the silence of a home that no longer echoed with her voice. Those first few months were a blur. Sleepless nights blended into workdays I barely survived. Friends tried to pull me out of the fog, but some pain you just have to bleed out by yourself. One evening, sitting in the dark, staring at my reflection in the black screen of the TV, I asked myself, what now? That question saved me. I started therapy. Began running, not for fitness at first, but just to exhaust myself enough to sleep at night. Over time, I ran because it made me feel alive again. I stopped dating. Stopped chasing distractions. I didn't try to fill the silence with noise. I read more. Took chances in my career. Traveled. I failed, learned, and got back up. Gradually, the ache lost its sharpness. And one random day, I passed by our old coffee spot and didn't think of her at all. I heard a love song and didn't feel a twist in my chest. That's when I knew I was truly free. Then came Anna. She wasn't dramatic or loud. She didn't arrive with sparks or chaos. She entered my life like morning light, quiet, comforting, constant. She didn't ask me to prove myself. She just accepted me. Listened. Understood. Never compared me to ghosts of the past. Her kindness felt like a language I had forgotten how to speak. She didn't rescue me. I had already done that work. But she reminded me what it felt like to be loved with sincerity. We got married 3 years ago. It wasn't a grand event, just vows, close family, laughter, and something I hadn't felt in years, peace. Which brings me back to that restaurant. Anna and I were celebrating a small promotion. Nothing huge, just enough of a reason to treat ourselves. We were mid-laugh, holding hands across the table like people who still genuinely liked each other, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. I turned, and there she was. My ex. She hadn't aged badly, but she hadn't aged freely either. There was a stiffness in her smile, a shadow around her eyes that suggested more regrets than years lived. Her hair was styled perfectly, her dress tasteful, but something was missing. A softness. A light. Something I once tried too hard to give her. Long time, I said, calm and steady. She glanced at Anna, and for a split second, time froze. Her eyes darted between Anna's kind smile, the wedding band on her hand, and the way I looked at her, not with sadness or yearning, but with calm contentment. "This is my wife," I said simply. Anna extended her hand warmly, without hesitation. "Nice to meet you," she said. My ex responded with a quiet, almost reluctant, "Hi." Then she looked back at me and said, "You look different." "I am," I replied. She nodded slowly. "Well, good for you." There was something behind her words. Not envy exactly, more like sorrow. A hint of realization. Like she finally understood what she had given up, only now that it stood before her, happy, whole, and untouched by the past. We said goodbye soon after. I watched her return to her table. She sat alone. No one waited across from her. And in that moment, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel bitter. Just clarity. Sometimes people lose the most valuable part of their life because they're too blind to see it until it's long gone. Anna gently squeezed my hand. "You okay?" she asked. I smiled. Better than ever. Because I was. This peace, this love, this quiet new chapter, it was the kind of revenge that didn't need to be spoken. Some wounds don't just close. They teach you how to never break the same way again.